Welcome to Words of Power with Joey DeMaio. I'm the founder and bassist of the band Manowar. I'm a record producer and an entrepreneur and public speaker. In this podcast, I discuss values and ideas that I believe are helpful for all of us wanting to live a powerful life. And I speak with people that have a great message or that I find interesting as well as inspiring. In this episode, I'm joined by my childhood friend and Manowar bandmate of 40 years, Eric Adams. Eric started his musical career at 9 years old and was actually a child star. You will hear how he discovered his love for music, the trials and tribulations he was confronted with as a young adult, and how his upbringing and work ethic helped him to fulfill his life's dream. If you're enjoying my podcast, please make sure to rate it and leave a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform. And don't forget to subscribe so you get new episodes automatically. Also, visit me on social media. Let me know what you thought of this episode and what you'd like to hear about. My username on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is Real Joey DeMaio. I'm sitting here with my lifelong friend, the great singer, Eric Adams. We celebrate 40 years this year of being in Manowar. What can I say? The man is here himself. Welcome, Eric.
Well, it's good to be here, Joey.
It's good to be alive, isn't it, in this day and age? So much stuff going on.
Yeah.
But with that, the program Words of Power has been made, of course, to inspire people and empower people. And you're somebody that a lot of people respect and look up to because you've always been positive through all these years. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. The fact that, sure, it's been 40 years of Manowar and many, many ups and downs. And sometimes more downs than ups.
Oh, yeah. The early years.
And even before that, you've had your share of ups and downs when you started in the music business. But early grief was probably good preparation for, your later grief. I know pretty much your story, but I'm sure today I'll find out things that I didn't know. Let's start at the beginning. How did just music enter your life?
I was 9 years old and was hanging out with some friends. And they started playing musical instruments, and I didn't want to be left out. So I asked my mother to buy me a guitar, and she bought me, an old acoustic guitar. I think she got it from somebody. And the string, the action on it, the action for people that don't know what that means is the strings are really high on the fretboard. It's very, very difficult to play. The action on it was ridiculous.
But you knew about action back then? It felt like shit.
I knew my fingers hurt. Yeah. That's for sure. It hurt every time I pressed down on the string. And I said, man, I don't know. I just kept doing it. And when my mother finally realized that, his fingers are bleeding and it's time for a proper guitar. She didn't come from a lot of money, so she bought me a Kent guitar.
That's what I had, a Kent, and it was a piece of shit. If you liked yours must have been a good one. Because mine was, back then, I think it was $125, and my parents bitched it. Boy, did they get ripped off. It was fucking garbage.
Yeah, I can't remember what it cost. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread up there. I really enjoyed it. So I played with that, and we did our first proper show in 1963. That was our first time I ever played on stage.
Do you remember what month it was in 63?
It was September.
So that was 13 months before the Beatles hit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Beatles
it was
hit in 64. So your band preceded the Beatles.
Yeah, we opened for a band called the Trinidadads back then. A lot of it wasn't singing. A lot of it was just,
like the Ventures, instrumental music.
Yeah, those kind of things.
I was just going to say, what the hell did you play? Because you couldn't say, we played Beatles songs.
No, we played Walk, Don't Run and, songs that people don't know about, but they were very early, so Apache, things like that. That's what we played. We did other things, with some vocals in it, but I never sang. I always did the background harmonies. The lead guitar player was the vocalist at the time, and as we progressed...
So wait a minute, you had no idea you were a singer?
I had no idea.
You had no idea. So you started playing guitar. You had a guitar player in the band, a bass player, and a drummer in the band, right?
Yep.
So it was you four.
Yep.
Playing stuff, instrumental stuff, which, if I can point this out, I think that's something that we of our generation have been gifted and blessed with, that we learned to play music that was great music. I mean, you had to be able to play that stuff. Those guys were good on guitars, right?
Oh, yeah.
But more importantly, those songs were so infectious and catchy, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Subconsciously, we were sucking that in.
I was hooked on music right away. After the first show, I said, oh, my God, this is where I belong on stage, By the time I was 11 years old, we were playing out in different places. My father would help drive us, and we were too small to lift up the amps and stuff, so he would do it. And it was hard for him because he worked a regular job. By the time he came home on a Friday night, exhausted from working all day, he would load up his car and somebody else's car, and then we drove to the show. And that show could have been in Pennsylvania, could have been up in Watertown, which is an hour-and-a-half ride. And
you played not only all around the area, but you actually played out of state at 9 years old.
Yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, we had a manager in California at the time. And we made our first record when I was 12, and the record took off in Spain. And our manager over in L.A. let us know that he said, well, there's a TV show coming out, and they're looking for a young, talented band that are doing this. And, we at that time, we had already won some Battle of the Bands, and, we'd been playing out every weekend and rehearsing all week long after school. And
so you rehearsed every day after school?
Every day.
Because it was that much fun? And
it was fun.
And you were looking forward to the weekend because you knew you were going to get out and play on stage.
It was fun. And my parents made the mistake of letting us practice right in their house. And, and we had a room down in the basement, and everybody in the band had their own key, and they could go in there whenever they wanted. Saturday morning came, and our drummer was down there pounding away, and I'd hear him upstairs. So I went downstairs and picked up a guitar and started playing with him. Actually, he taught me how to play drums, and I taught him how to play guitar back then.
We'll get to that in a minute, but I remember your parents' house, of course, and I do remember that downstairs room, which was huge, and it was a great rehearsal space. People would kill to have that rehearsal space today.
Yeah, it was fun.
But there were other inhabitants in the house. You come from a very big family.
Yeah, I've got 7 sisters, 2 brothers.
And they all were supportive of you playing in a band, right? They were thrilled that their brother played in a band. And you were famous in your own early way, right?
In the early way, yeah. We played around, and people around the area knew who we were because we played all these different cities everywhere. And we made a video over at a TV station of our single, and we sent it to the man out in L.A., and he watched it and loved it and wrote us back and said, we're too young for this TV show. The TV show happened to be the Monkees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we just kept playing and doing our thing. Now the Beatles came out. When the Beatles came out, everything changed.
Sure.
Everything changed. Sure. We started doing 3-part harmony.
And you had to learn those songs, right?
Had to learn all the songs.
Okay, you loved playing guitar, you loved playing out, but at what point did you start actually singing? Was it just little bit by little bit chiming in and here or there, or did you, what was the deal?
This is funny because we each would pick a song that we liked, and whoever wanted to sing it, they sang it. And by now we had 3 guys in the band that would sing, and each of them had their own song that they would lead sing in, and the rest of us would do the background vocals until our voices started to change as we grew older. If one guy was singing a song and his voice was cracking and he couldn't do it, we had to play that song that weekend. And so I was able to still do it.
So the guitar player sang, the bassist sang, and the drummer sang. And
drummer didn't sing too much. He didn't sing too much, but he sang some background
But you didn't sing too much, so it really fell on to these 2 guys to sing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long because they weren't singing correctly till their voices burned out.
When they went up, their voices would crack, and kid voices, before they were young men, and you sounded like it. Matter of fact, the band was called the Kids back then.
Right.
And
so was Johnny Depp. You remember him, of course, from Florida, but that's another story.
Yeah. So we ended up playing and doing our thing, and after a while, everybody's voice was changed enough. I already had all the lead vocals to all the songs, so
their voice got lower, yours got higher?
Mine got higher. I was able to reach the high notes and even go into head voice without people knowing I was going into head voice. So that sounded okay still, and so we went along like that.
Obviously, you figured out that as their voices got lower and yours got higher, all those songs, as you said, were back then, the singers. I mean, the Beatles sang like birds.
Yeah, they did.
And they sang that 3-part harmony, sometimes 4-part harmony. So did you instinctively shift their voices to the lower parts because that's what they were able to achieve, and you would sing the high parts?
Yeah, I mean, we figured out just by doing it, by rehearsing who liked what parts, where their voices fit the best. And, you got to understand, we rehearsed after school every night until after dinner. So it didn't take long before we found out who could sing what.
One thing I have to let people know is that you have always had, in addition to a great singing voice, of course, a real gift for being able to hear harmonies and sing harmonies. And I've always admired that to the max, because unless people try it, you have no fucking clue how hard it is. Now, for some people like yourself, right, it comes second nature, but boy, oh boy, the farther away you go from the root note of the song, the farther you go away from happy birthday to you, once you start having somebody sing that, and then you have to go up, which is usually the next third or the fifth, or, the farther you get away from the root.
I had to learn what notes worked with what chords. Period. You remember when we played in New York? We were scheduled to play a TV show in New York at the Ed Sullivan Theater.
The band people love to hate.
This was Manowar. This
yes,
is the first,
right.
Yeah.
That's when you had to have the shot.
I woke up that morning and I had laryngitis and I could not speak.
That wasn't a big deal because it was only our first TV show as Manowar, right? Pressure.
I called you, then I called our publicist. She said, "Oh my God, you get your ass down here anyway. You can't miss this." I said, "I can't sing. I can't talk." She says, "You come down here. I'll work something out." She met us at the airport. You guys went to the Ed Sullivan Theater to rehearse.
Yep.
She had me set up to go to a doctor that does all the shots when there's
I remember it.
The big people there that couldn't sing had to perform on Broadway.
He was Elizabeth Taylor's doctor and several other famous stars.
Yeah. He gave me a shot in the ass and he said, "You're going to be fine, son." I said, "Really?" He said, "Really?"
Yeah, we all believed that, right? When you came walking in, he said, "I'll be fine by showtime."
He said, "I'm going to be all right." We got on stage, and I didn't get to rehearse. Remember that? You guys did the rehearsal already.
Yep.
And so when we did the songs, I knew certain notes I couldn't reach, but at least I could sing. And I said, okay, my voice is somewhat here, but I'm not going to jump up to where I'm normally going to go because my voice might sound like shit. On the fly, I had to come up with different notes that work with the chord for a live TV show.
And had you not had all that experience learning all those songs, you never would have been able to shift gears on the spot, at a TV show.
Yeah.
Now, that's what people don't understand about the journey of being a musician and being a professional. It doesn't seem like anything when you're doing it, but when you have to call upon skills that you just inherently have in the moment, that's the difference between somebody who knows the score, or somebody who should be out the door. May I say. Let's talk about when you guys traveled. It seems, the way you just said it, like it was so comfortable. Explain your touring conditions in that day and how you traveled.
It wasn't pretty. And my father had a station wagon, jammed everything in there as much as he could in the station wagon, and then fit 3 people in the front seat, and that was all you can fit. And then another vehicle came, and it was just a regular sedan, and we packed the trunk with whatever we could there. Whoever was there sat in the back seat with guitars and shit over their laps, and that was it. And we had to travel like that for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Packed to the hilt.
Packed right to the hilt.
Wow.
If we ever got in an accident, I don't know what would have happened. We played down in Cortland a lot. That's where Feinstein came from.
And Ronnie Deal.
Coming home one night, some jackass. I mean, it was like, you remember we played till 2 in the morning. My father would be getting up at 5 in the morning to go to work, and we played till 2 in the morning on a Friday night. And he would pack the gear with us, or load the car back up, and head back home. And some jackass went by us, going 100 miles an hour, speeding by us. I can remember my father saying, that guy's going to end up wrapped around a tree someplace. And honest to God, before we hit the next town, we came around the corner, and there he was, wrapped around a tree.
Wasn't probably much left of him.
No. Well, he was still alive when we saw him. He's looking up at us through the windshield. We were kids.
Sure.
You got to understand. At the time, we were probably 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Look at
it's a heavy sight.
Holy shit. I never forgot it, I can tell you that.
Sure. That's all part of an education, isn't it? When you're traveling, you see things.
Oh, yeah.
Some things you want to see, some things you don't want to see. But you guys played in the state. You played out of the state. You traveled in station wagons. You practiced every single day. Your parents were very, very supportive,
Yeah.
loving, hard-working people. And you came from a similar family background as I did. And my parents broke their ass as well. They allowed me to practice in the house, and my father worked crazy shifts on the police department. I don't know how he did it, but he would sleep while we were blasting. And, back then, we couldn't play for shit. I mean, honestly, I played in bands around the time you did, but the bands I played in couldn't play. The band you played in sounded good. I was just with a bunch of guys who were fuck-ups, and I was a fuck-up. And I can imagine what it must have been like for my father to try to sleep while my band, as horrible as we were, couldn't play loud enough, and it was just a hideous, torturous thing. And to have that kind of parental support like I've had and you've had is so rare. I know some of the guys that you've worked with over the years just never had it.
That's true. That's very, very true. I can remember you coming to our shows to see us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, because I started playing right around that time. And I remember I couldn't find, serious guys. It took a little while. I did find some, but it didn't last long. And I can always remember my father driving by a music store, and you guys played in the window of a music store. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Clark's Music Store.
That's correct.
Yep.
And I remember seeing the bass player's father there, and my father knew him because they were both in law enforcement. And I'll never forget, my father was saying to him, "Oh, is that your kid playing?" And he said, yeah, it is. And I saw my father say, "You must be proud." And I think at that point, that was maybe the first moment I had, like, wow, look at that. He said he's really proud of his son. I want to make my father proud of me, And I think that was one of the first things that hit me like an arrow into my soul, that I'm going to fucking really get serious. I'm going to do something, because it was something that was cool. It was something that looked glamorous, right? I mean, playing on stage and all the craziness that we went through in different bands, and of course in bands together before Manowar.
Right.
So you guys progressed, you played, and eventually the band kind of metamorphosized into different versions of the band of the guys you grew up with.
Yeah, same guys. We played for quite a few years.
How many years was the band actually together?
We were together for 15 years, which was a long time.
Absolutely.
But again, we were all having fun. It was like I didn't think about all the high school things that I missed, because I was out there playing on weekends. So, to miss a football game, I never went to a high school football game. I was always playing Friday night. That's just the way it was. Then after a while, I just wanted to move on. I could see that the band was kind of stale. We weren't going anywhere, and it was one of the hardest things I had to do.
Now you just brought up something that I think everybody who becomes, let's just say, a professional musician or a lifer, as we are, I think that's a turning point that everybody has to face. We start out as kids having fun, right? Then all of a sudden you start to get a little better, and then you either get bit to want to get good. And at that turning point, you start to see your friends going the other way. And the other way is wife, house, dog, kid, cat, picket fence, bills and responsibilities, and all of the things that our parents had a quote-unquote normal life, right? And then there are those of us that, we say, okay, I really got to do this. And that's a difficult decision to make. So those guys must have been ahead of you in those decisions, right?
Well, the thing was, we had a heck of a career as it was. We had gone quite a few places. We made a record when we were 12.
I forgot, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, I was telling somebody the other day, you played the New York World's Fair.
World's Fair, 1964.
Which, that's totally an amazing
first time
accomplishment.
That was my first beer. First beer.
Oh, bullshit. You were drinking at 5 years old.
My father asked me if I wanted a beer. I says, absolutely, I want a beer. It was so hot at the World's Fair. It was just so hot. And I think my dad was really proud of me, too. I mean, he went to the World's Fair. Come on.
Of course he was. You took him to the fair.
Yeah,
he
that's
wouldn't
right.
have gone.
That's right.
And you know what's really so funny? I was there that year with my parents.
At the World's Fair?
Yes, we were on vacation. Yeah. Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah.
I had no idea you guys were playing.
We played the World's Fair. Yeah, we did that, and while we were there, we did some photo shoot up on the Empire State Building, and I thought it was holy shit.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. The Beatles were out, and I said, holy shit, we're just like the Beatles. God damn it. Here we are. We've made it now. At 13 years old, we made it. Here we go.
Yeah, well, coming from humble beginnings, that was quite an accomplishment, particularly for young kids. I mean, let's face it, it's a reality.
But the time did come after a while where, like you say, I wanted to keep practicing after school, even after high school sessions where I wanted to practice and get better. And there was always a reason why somebody couldn't make rehearsal all of a sudden. Two of us wanted to keep going at rehearsal, and two of us were too busy doing other things.
I remember that
I kept
bullshit.
saying, come on, man. The band's never going to move on to the next level if we don't. I remember saying, look, I want to do this for a living. I don't want to work a regular job anymore. I don't want to do this. I want to work with the music and just stay with the music. Period. That's all I want to do. They couldn't make that decision. So I finally had to say to the drummer, I said, look, I'm going to move on. And I hate to say this, we've been together 15 years or so, but it's time for me to move on. And I don't know, if you want to come with me, come on. Then he was going to go with me, and I asked the bass player, who happened to be a cousin of the guitar player.
Right.
And I said to him, I said, Paul, this is really tough. I hope you can understand. I have to leave the band. He was really pissed, and he's still pissed today about it.
This was part one of my conversation with Eric Adams, my childhood friend and longtime bandmate. Tune in to the next episode of Words of Power with Joey DeMaio to hear more about Eric's character-building career steps, the challenges we were confronted with during our early band years together, and find out what shocking discovery Eric made during the recording of this podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on your favorite podcasting platform, and make sure to subscribe so you receive new episodes automatically. Also, if you know someone that you think could use some inspiration and encouragement, tell them about this show. You can also paste a link to this podcast in a group email or group message to your friends. The more we spread the word, the more people we can help. Remember, don't give up on your dreams. Work hard, be persistent, and you will achieve great things. Thanks again for joining me. Have a great day, and remember, live a powerful life.